Greetings of peace and love. My name is Ram Hotep. I'm broadcasting on behalf of the number 13 SignsAstrology.com. I thank you for listening. I thank you for watching. On this episode, I definitely have a special treat for you guys. By popular request, I've been doing a lot of consultations with a certain group of women, and these group of women, especially since we've transitioned into the sign and the constellation of Libra, which actually started on October the 31st during the Halloween season. And since that date, a lot of women have been coming through getting consultations, and I've been reading their natal charts. And these women come from a very special region in the solar system. And in this region, they partake in what we would call same-sex love or same-sex marriage even. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. Now, the first thing you want to do to understand this concept, and the first thing that I need to explain in order for you guys to understand this concept, is I need to talk about Pleiades, the star constellation of Pleiades. Why, you ask? Well, it's because this group of women, this very special group of women, come from this particular star constellation. This is where they originate from. If you go and research and get on the internet, or if you're into science and things of that nature, you can actually discover, and you'll find out that in Pleiades they have Earth type of planets there. Now, scientists of this world are just now finding this out. However, this is something that the ancient Atlanteans, going into the Egyptians, and even the Lemurians knew a lot about. And they have planets also that are similar to Venus. And Venus, if you know anything about Venus and the beings on Venus, this is supposed to be called the planet of love, of divine, genuine love. This is where the region of the universe where love comes from. So anytime you have a Venus type of planet, you're dealing with the highest. The beings that come from that planet are a part of the highest aspect of the feminine principle. And the highest aspect of the feminine principle is love. So this group of women originated in this star constellation, and they started incarnating here on this planet during the times of Lemuria. And I talked a little bit about this in my video I did on Lemuria. And Lemuria was a feminine-based society where women made all of the decisions. Women were the scientists. Women were the artists. Women were responsible for progress and furthering creation. Now, when you think about the concept of relationships, because it's going to get a little bit interesting as I go into the video, the concept of relationships, the reason why we have them here in this world and the reason why we even need them is because this is how we progress. You progress and you graduate here in the matrix and here on this planet based upon your ability to relate to other people. And relationships are ruled by Libra. So in order for you to be a good, I guess you could say a good person, and in order for you to live to your fullest potential is basically predicated upon your ability to relate and to correspond with different types of people. So the highest aspect of this coming from this planet, because we call this planet Mother Earth, the highest aspect of this was actually created by women. And Thoth is another part of this video that I have to cover, because you have to understand Thoth as a man, because it's going to be males watching this video. And if you want to understand what I'm going to say about this and why I do agree with these women, partaking in same-sex relationships, because you have a lot of males that don't agree with this. And you do have a lot of females too, a lot of old school females that do not agree with women partaking in same-sex relationships. And this is because these women are not, their souls are not, and these males, their souls are not as old, and they don't go back to the times of this particular era that I'm speaking of. This was a different time on this planet. It's very new on this planet where males and females interact and have relationships like an Adam and Eve type of relationship. This type of culture, because that's actually what it is very new. And it's dominating now, but it's actually dying, as you can see. And then there's a war going on between these type of beings and then other beings that may be a little bit younger. So the beings that are more younger, they're more so into heterosexual relationships, is what you would call it, things of that nature. And there's nothing wrong with that. Here on this channel, I come from the energy of Thoth. And Thoth was an arbiter. And Thoth basically negotiates and tries to bring peace between groups of people that may be at war. So Thoth was always like a middleman. He always walked the middle path. And the only way that we're going to advance and make it into the deeper aspects of the shift is if we accept these group of, especially women. I'll talk about the male aspect more so in another video because I want to channel it under a different energy. But the only way that we're going to accept, I guess, and the only way we're going to advance into the feminine principle is we're going to have to learn how to accept different types of beings. That's the basis of what I cover here on this channel. When you talk about the shifts and all of that type of stuff, the whole thing about it is that new beings want to come onto this planet. And some of these beings, there's a lot of different type of beings out there. But this particular group of beings that I'm talking about, they don't interact and they don't do things and see things the way that, a lot of the younger souls see things, which are part of the Adam and Eve cult, which is really part of the cult of religion. And this cult was really based upon male patriarchy, no matter how you look at it. Because of the fact that a woman being up under a man, and in a normal relationship, she has to submit herself, is what they call it in the Quran. She has to submit herself to this man. She has to give up a certain aspect of herself if she wants to be basically in congruence with the way that male and the average male's energy is. And this is because the average male's energy is based upon the Adam and Eve story, where basically the woman was the slave of the male. Essentially, when you read that story, and a lot of people in religion are going to like this because, they're like, well, that's just all sci-fi and mumbo jumbo. But that's when you read the book, that's what it is. If you research the term wife, that's what it is. A wife is a slave. So what I'm saying here is that this group of women, they come from the Pleiades star constellation. So let me talk about them. I'm not going to really focus too much on the negative aspects right now. And this group of women, they're called, if you research the term Pleiades, it means the dove. And if you research the dove is the number one symbol when we talk about love, divine love. And these women, they are called the 7 sisters of Pleiades. This is the actual mythological story that we would use to help you to understand how these women are. Because these women were like sisters. And a lot of males don't understand the love that sisters have for each other. Like women, this is sistering type of love, when women just have joy in making clothes together, and women have joy in maybe even sleeping in the same bed together, watching television together, and things of that nature. When we think about female relationships, same-sex female relationships being together, we always think about sex. A lot of times, men and a lot of women, like I said, do this, and a lot of males. However, if you really are around a lot of these women and you start to study a lot of these women, if you spend time with them, these women that are from that particular region where their souls may have originated there, you'll find out that they're not in these relationships a lot of times just to get off and to get an orgasm, and just a lot of times it has really nothing to do with sex. It's a certain energy that they need. And a lot of times they don't even understand themselves. The reason why they don't understand themselves is because it's not embraced in the society. Nobody's really talking about the women that came from Pleiades, that originated in Earth type of planets during that time. So what happened is that during the time of Atlantis and Lemuria, and even in early Egyptian days, this is early Egyptian, pre-dynastic, these type of women were more popular. This type of cult was more popular. But what happened was that once, during the time of Akhenaten, And during the time when patriarchy started to take over, this group of women, they began to take out this type of woman. They began to suppress this type of woman. Why? Because love is the ultimate magic. Like you talk about magic and what's the highest form of it, there's different forms of magic. But love is the highest form of magic. And in order for male patriarchy, in order for the magic of male patriarchy to work, they had to suppress this type of divine love. So what happened was that these women stopped incarnating as much on this planet once male patriarchy took over. So we lost the knowledge of this type of women. And during the time, I say around 1980, or really after 1972, which is when the star seeds first started coming in, this is when these type of women begin to come back to the planet. And this is why women, a lot of women that are born pre-1972, and even some born after that, don't really have a really good understanding of this. They think this is totally like you're infidel if you believe in this type of thing. And that's okay if that's what those type of women believe, because there are certain type of beings. Those women that believe in heterosexual relationships, they are a certain type of a being as well. We have to accept them as well. We can't knock them as well, because I'll do another video on that as well. Like, that's a certain type of a woman that does see the strength in a man and that does want to be up under the authority of a male. There is a certain type of woman like that. They call it the old school women nowadays, because a lot of these younger women, I do consultations with them all day, and most of them, they have this in their natal charts. A lot of them are curious about it. Some of them are virgins when it comes to even dealing with males. Some of them never even really had a relationship with a male. They say when they were born, they never really had an inclination, naturally though, through their nature, to really be with a male and be up under the authority of a male. Some of them may have experienced being with a male sexually a few times or whatever, but they're most comfortable when they're up under the rulership, or not really the rulership, but when they're in a relationship with a woman. This is how they're most comfortable. Now, it's a flip side to that. I'm going to talk about the flip side of it, because when you get into the sexual aspect, that's when it gets tricky, because that's when the control factors can come in at. Even when you're dealing with women that are in the same sex relationships amongst women, there's a flip side to that. And as thought, I have to talk about the opposite side. I have to talk about both sides. So the opposite side to that is that you get into bed, no matter how you look at it, and this is even with males and females, and even when two males get into bed and do whatever they do, the thing is that there's always the alpha, and then there's always the beta. There's always the dominant, and then there's always the one that is in submission to the dominant. And that's what a lot of people don't really want to address on that aspect. A lot of women, even, they get into these relationships with these women. A lot of these women are more so trying to be like men. Why? Because they may have been hurt by their father. They may have never really had a male in their life, or they may resent males. So then they go and they prey on females the same way males do. And they get into these relationships with women just to break their self-esteem, just to control this woman, because they may want to get some money out of this woman because she has a good job, or they want to get something out of this woman. So they'll bring that male patriarchal mentality into a relationship. So don't get me wrong, male patriarchy is still thriving, even amongst women, because if it wasn't, you wouldn't see women, these certain types of women, dressing up like males or wanting to look like males and wearing jeans, and they may have a dildo that they keep with them because they don't have a phallus. So they keep a dildo with them, like, at all times, because they want to feel like a man. This is how men are. They have a penis with them at all times. So why not keep my dildo with me or whatever? So I know what goes on. I've spoke to women on a lot of different levels on this level. And these type of women, they have a cycle. They still have a cycle. So even though you're dressing up like a male, you still bleed like a woman. So why are you trying to portray yourself and act like a male? So don't get me wrong. Ram Hotep is not, I'm not necessarily for the primitive aspects of same-sex relationships. I can't endorse that, but I do understand the nature of what's going on, and I have to address the nature of what's going on here in this video. So a lot of these women are coming back now on this planet, and a lot of them are confused because they're coming back and they don't know themselves, and this is new to them. This whole plan and the way of working is new to them. So they may take on, and they may think, well, if I like women or whatever, some of them will be like what we call in the streets, like a butch. This is what I call it. Up north, I'm from Ohio, we used to call it butches. And some of them, they want to be like a butch, which is like a female that wants to act like a male. You know what I'm saying? You have that aspect. And then you have some of them though that are like feminine. You would look at them like, wow, she's beautiful. And lo and behold, you don't know this, but she doesn't have any type of interest in being really with a male. Why? Because she really doesn't understand males and things of that nature. And she comes from a place, it's more natural for her to understand females because of the 7 sisters of Pleiades. You really need to research that story or whatever to really understand where I'm coming from in this particular aspect of this video. So it could get really interesting. It could get really interesting. The thing is that these women and these men or whatever that are in these relationships, they really need to, like, I guess you could say, study more about themselves, learn more about themselves, and they need to maybe even embrace. So it needs to be a new type of male that needs to come on the scene, is what I'm getting at. And this new type of male that comes on the scene has to be more of the Thoth type. I don't want to talk about Thoth again. Because if you notice the symbols of Thoth in ancient Kemet, he was always holding, a lot of times he was always holding his Ankh, I believe, in his left hand. And the Ankh represents the womb. It represents the womb. And he was always holding his rod, or what was called the was, in the right hand. And the rod represents the phallus, or the penis. And the womb and the phallus are both magical tools. And the thing is that if a male that really is going to be successful in this new energy is going to have to kill the male patriarchy. That's going to have to go out the window, trying to dominate, control women, like the whole pimp mentality where you whoop a woman's ass when she gets out of line because she's like, you're losing control of her, so you got to like scare her and put this fear in her. So you got a lot of males, they want to get hands on and put their hands on them. That's going out the window, and the Thoth type of males are going to have to come on the scene. And the Thoth type of male is one, because a lot of times he's depicted as being a hermaphrodite. I've talked about this in certain videos. He's a hermaphrodite, not a hermaphrodite. And a hermaphrodite he's a male, very much a male, but he may have a few body parts on him, female body parts. Why did they draw him like that? The Egyptians drew him like this. This is not Ramhotep didn't draw him like that. It was the ancient Egyptians. And a lot of people out here, they talk about Egypt, and a lot of old school people too, but they don't like touching that. So they don't want to go into the symbols or what these symbols believe, like what these symbols were about. You got a lot of the old school teachers that come from the African type of culture and the whole like culture of like fuck homosexuals and that's just some punk shit and all of that. And they like knock all of that instead of like really reaching out and trying to teach people into a different culture and a way of dealing in relationships. And that's what I'm about to get into in a second. But the Thoth type of male has to come on the scene. And the Thoth type of male is one who understands his feminine nature just as much as his masculine nature. Because even as a male, you have to understand that. Your feminine nature and your masculine nature. Thoth was the head, he was the head Ogdo. There's a system in ancient Egypt that's much older than the Ennead system, which is the system of 9 deities, which goes more into male patriarchy and more modern, the way we deal in modern relationships. That's the Ennead system. You can research that. But Thoth was he was a part of the Ogdo system. He was the head of the Ogdodes, were those beings that ruled in the waters in Lemuria. And I talk about this in my Lemuria video, so I won't go too much into it here. But the thing is that when those 7 sisters from Pleiades came to this planet, that represents those women that came from this planet, and they came with Thoth. So they still came with a male. Don't get it twisted. There were males in that constellation, but there weren't as many, because of the fact that a male is nothing but a genetic defect of a female. The average male nowadays is a genetic defect and a part of an experiment, that's right, of a female. And you know, the master teacher, Dr. Malachi York, talked about this in depth. This is why males they have nipples, but they don't have full breasts. They can't breastfeed their children. They have certain organs that a woman has. However, they can't use them the way that a woman uses them, so which makes them, and I'm not going to say they're inferior just because they're a defect, but that type of male served a purpose. The reason why they would make those males back then, in the times of Lemuria, a male would only be created in a laboratory for certain purposes. A male was like a soldier, a warrior, this type of male that we are now, like the primitive, strong, alpha, dominant type of male that, rules over things. And like, males are warriors. That's why they say men are from Mars, because we're supposed to be representing the strength. So that type of male had a purpose, but these were your soldiers though. They weren't really too high up on the food chain back then. Now that Thoth type of male, which is a different type of male, was a lot more higher up, because these were the magicians. So this was the type of male that took part in the experiment when they wanted to bring a new male on the scene, or a group of males, to protect the land from different beings that may invade and things of that nature. So you needed a warrior type of male. You do need that. That's very much needed. So it's about the acceptance of certain beings. So now the Thoth type of male has to come back on the scene, and a new type of doctrine when it comes to relationships is going to have to be embraced. What I mean by that, well, right now you have basically a relationship as a man and a woman. They get together, they buy a house, they like you. Well, they date each other first. They like each other. They have sex. Maybe they have a baby first, or whatever. However the situation goes, they end up trying to make it a family, and they end up trying to partner up, and they end up trying to make it work. And it usually works for a while, and then it gets rocky. A lot of times the male doesn't like the female's homegirls. They say she spends too much time with her homegirls. Her homegirls turning her against me, man. Like, I don't trust him. That type of stuff comes on the scene. The male, he goes out and starts getting more females, because he's dissatisfied, and the woman, she calls that cheating. Oh, he's a cheater. He cheated on me. He went out and got other women or whatever. And the thing is that, yeah, you did cheat. And your homegirls, it's like they're right. Everything that's happened is right. Your homegirls are getting in the way of this relationship. But the thing is that it's your mentality. See, if you embraced a different type of way to relate to one another, if you guys did that, relationships could go a lot better. And that's what I'm going to kind of introduce now. And this comes from, the only way I can really explain it to you, because the only way it's been kind of successful, is if you understand the culture of the pimping thing. I know a lot of people hate when I talk about this, but I have to talk about this, because this is the only really visual that we have right now to really help you to understand a little bit about it, because that's still even primitive, because there's a lot of male patriarchy is heavy in pimping. They beating their women and all of that, but I'm talking about certain aspects of it. And in the Bible, it's demonstrated too, but we haven't seen it demonstrated like that. So in the pimping thing, and then I'll take it up in another level and talk about it in the Bible. But in the pimping thing, a male has what's called a bottom bitch. And a bottom bitch basically is like his main woman. She gets all the rights, essentially she gets everything. She's not the one out there selling her ass, and she's not doing all the work. And she's the main one. She's the queen. She's upheld. She's put on the throne. And I'm using this terminology, so those people that are religious and it's kind of sensitive, just bear with me here, because I'm using this terminology to relate to a group of people. So you have the bottom bitch or whatever, and she's put up on the throne or whatever, and that's the main woman. However, the bottom bitch, if you study the old times of pimping, she would be the one that would help him to find other women. She was the one that would go out fishing for the women that's going to do the dirty work, which is going around and sleeping with the Johns and things of that nature. So the concept of that is they would all live a lot of times in a house together or something like that. Or they would live, or what would be like a stable. Sometimes they call it a stable. But they would live together in a situation, in a relationship situation. And the bottom bitch controlled the other women. Now we could take it up a notch and talk about it in the Bible. In the Bible, you have especially when you study Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, you talk about Solomon had all of these different wives, right? How did he control all these women? You wonder how in the hell did this man have 50 different women? I don't even know the number. I think it was 50 different wives. And how did he control all of these women? How was he able to stay in control as a man? And it's because the Queen of Sheba was she was the queen or whatever. She would go out and get what you would call concubines, because he had concubines as well. So not only did he have wives, because he had wives, and a wife is basically she controls the household. That's pretty much how it goes. Everything, even to a point where she controls even the man in the household. The house is the woman's place. This is how we were taught. So you get a house with a woman, that's her place. The male, his job is to control the outer aspects of making sure money comes in, bills getting paid, regulating things of that nature. That's his job. But the woman, as far as her duties, is to control the household and how things go, and making sure that things are regulated correctly. But a woman back in the biblical days was allowed to have what's called concubines, or was allowed to recruit concubines for the male. And the concubines actually were slaves really for the women, or they worked for the women. A lot of times the concubines were a lot younger. The wife was a lot older. A wife was maybe, say for instance, let's put it in layman terms, a wife may have been in her 40s, And then the concubine may be like 20s younger women. So of course younger women always naturally look up to older women anyway. So the reason why this was like a way that you build human potential and you build human character through the wife being able to recruit younger women and putting the younger women up under her, and the wife controlled the younger women until they got old enough, and then they would become a wife to another man, or maybe to that same man. And when they became a wife, they was given a certain amount of land, and that was their kingdom, because a woman's kingdom is the land. That's her kingdom. The male's kingdom is the waters, going out into commerce, exchanging, going and dealing with foreign nations. Males were more diplomats. So Solomon, a lot of times, he may not have been at home. A lot of times he may have been out doing business, doing trade, and things of that nature. So these type of relationships are not seen. Even in Islam, when you talk about polygamy, polyandry, and things of that nature, especially polygamy, not really polyandry, but when you talk about the system, because polygamy is the institution of a male having more than one wife or whatever, that's not even done correctly. Because a lot of times you have a man that's living in a house with 7 women or 3 women or whatever, and he's basically just sleeping with all these women, and he doesn't have a lot of money, and it's not even been done correctly. No woman is put up to a higher stature. It's just all of these women are pretty much equal, and the man is just trying to rule over all of these women. And what's going to happen is that these women are going to overthrow this male, and they're going to take over, because there's no way in the world that a male can deal with a lot of women like that without getting emotional and wanting to put his hands on them, because women are very emotional, and when they come together, like when you leave and go to work, they're going to come together and plan on how they're going to get out of the situation, overthrow you, and take you over. So it was never supposed to be done like that. It's a system of the way you do these things. However, the normal way, which is I call the caveman way, is what we do now, is when just a male and a woman get together and they move into a house and have children and try to make that work. That's not really working anymore either. Because the male naturally wants to go out and get other women, and the woman wants to go out and hang out with her females, her homegirls, and maybe even possibly experience situations with other males. And a lot of times a man ain't dealing with that because his ego, and he's thinking about sex. See, and that's what the thing is, that we're still stuck on below the belly. Every time we think about a man having more than one woman, we're thinking about, oh, he's going to put his phallus into another woman. I can't stand that. I can't even think about that. Or, oh, she's going to open up her legs to another man. And until you get over that and master those emotions of sex in general, because a lot of times to do this, you may not really be having a lot of sex still. Just because you have more than one woman doesn't mean you need to be having a lot of sex with them. What if you lived in a household where it was your mother, your aunt, your sister, and your wife? You're not having sex with all them. You better not be. However, you still got to be in that situation because of the fact that you may have to live like that for economic purposes. And living like that may help you to build a bigger economic kingdom living like that. So what I'm here to teach, and what my final words on this topic will just be that those type of women have a place in the society. They like to be with women or whatever and things of that nature. They have a place in the society, but it's not until we really start to relate to one another differently, it's going to just still remain primitive, and it's just going to be like 2 women getting together trying to do what a male and a female, when they get together, do. And it's going to be like that. And those women, that you guys that are like that, the 7 daughters of Pleiades is what I call you. You women that are like that are much more. Like, it's much more than just you getting with a woman and just being with her. You're supposed to be a part of a team or a group to build up a kingdom, an economic kingdom. So that's what I'm on. You're supposed to be like a partner in a business type of environment. If you're going to decide that you're going to move in with someone, and you decide that you're going to be in a relationship with them, and you guys are going to move in together, though, it's one thing to date and have sex, free, loose sex. I mean, you guys do what you do. Like, I don't really too much get into that. You know what I'm saying? But if you're talking about as far as like really building something with somebody, whether it's somebody of the opposite sex or not, you need to first define what type of being you are. And then after you do that, you need to, when you partner up with that other person, you need to form some type of agreement, contract even, to let them, the other party, know, like, yo, I'm this type of being, and at some point, like, say for instance, you're a male, and at some point you're going to want to get you may want her to have some concubines, or you may even want to get you another quote unquote wife. I use that term very loosely, or main partner, let's just call it that. You may want to get you another main partner. You got to look at, every time you get you another wife, quote unquote, another main partner, you have to look at it like that's the board of directors in a business. So all of those wives, they're equal to you. They're your equals. You're not over them. They're not, you know what I'm saying? You can't play all these manipulate. These are your equals. and they get shares in the company, and they get just as much in the say so in the company. You guys might have to set up a voting structure or something like that. They get just as much of a say so as someone else. Now, if she goes out and gets concubines, these are women that may be up under her. You may have certain rights to those women or whatever. However, that's between her. The concubines are kind of like employees. And you may be like, well, that's not fair. Like, everybody should be partners, but life ain't fair. Because a lot of you guys are employees for companies. You don't get no say so on what happens, and you're not on the board of directors of that company. You don't have no say so on what happens at the top. A lot of you guys are employees of the United States Corporation. You have no say so on what happens at the top. What happens in the House, the Congress, and the Senate, when they meet, you guys have no say so. This is why they still get paid and you don't. A lot of times, because like if the government shuts down or something like that, they still get paid. It's because they're at the top. They're on the board. Why? Because they may have took the risk to get to that position that they're at. You study the term entrepreneur, it means one who takes risks. So why am I talking about business in a relationship video? Because if you get in and decide you're going to move in with someone, it's a business. That's what it becomes. This is why you get tax deductions and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? When you fill out your taxes and things like that, and you have a wife or something, you guys get certain tax benefits because you're married and things like that. So I embrace same-sex marriage, actually, because of the fact that I think economically it can go far, because I think that's going to be the introduction into bringing in polygamy, the institution of polygamy. So this is why I embrace it. Like, I definitely think it's good or whatever. I think that it's something that's needed because people need to break the spell of just this man and this woman being together, because you're not going to get anywhere economically like that. That's slavery. Like, and I mean, I'm here to tell that's for a lot of the older heads to say, well, that's just gay shit, and you know, and just two males being together, that's a butt boy, that's some gay shit. And I'm not for, see, that's the thing, when you start talking about the sex or whatever, like, I'm never going to let a nigga fuck me in the ass. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to keep it real with you right up, straight up. Like, I'm not for that at all. Like the male aspect of homosexuality, and even a lot of times the female aspect of the sexual aspect, that's the most primitive, dumbest part of it, is because a lot of times you guys are doing it strictly for pleasure anyway, and somebody's going to dominate the other person in bed anyway. So if you're basing a relationship all around some sex thing, you're missing the whole point of what you guys could be doing together and what you guys could be building together. So this video is not centered around the sexual aspect of it. I want to make that clear. Like, it's not centered around saying, like people could just go out here and get fucked in the ass freely, and two women can like take her dildo and she can, you know, fuck this woman with her dildo, or, you know, control her, manipulate her. I'm not talking about all of that. I mean, I know that's going to happen when you guys get into bed, but my saying is just like the old master teacher, Dr. Malachi York, said, because he's the only one that really even opened up the door to a lot of this stuff. That's why I keep quoting him in this video. He said, what you do in the bed is your business. And that's right. That's your business. Like, if you choose to get in bed and she's dominating you and doing all of this stuff or whatever, and you wonder why you got low self-esteem, that's on you, because you with a woman that's trying to act like a man, and she's doing the stuff like a man, and she's doing the same shit that a male would do to you. So that's up to you to decide how you're going to perform sexually. But I'm saying the culture of it is what I want to address, because there are a group of people out there that are seriously a part of that culture because of their star seeds. And you have to teach this type of information to the star seeds. So that's my brief segment on same-sex relationships, the daughters of Pleiades, and the type of new males that have to come on the scene. Now, to the males, you're just not saying you have to be a punk and just let a woman take anything from you, because if you notice, or you have to take anything, from a woman, just take all her shit and all of that. Like, nah. Because, I mean, they're going to challenge you when you're in that situation. Oh, yeah, a woman is going to challenge you and test you. And you are going to have to check her. But that doesn't mean you have to put your hands on her. You may check her verbally. You may check her another kind of way. There's tactics you got to use. You have to be a mental being. I'm not going to go into a lot of the tactics here. But we can talk about that in a consultation or something. But there's tactics that you got to use to check your woman. See, the pimps, they knew it. The concept of checking them, they just slap them. You know what I'm saying? But that's primitive. I mean, that's like actually going against a person's free will. So you have to be very careful karmically too when you get in these situations, because you can create a lot of negative karma for yourself if you don't perform correctly in the situation. My honest opinion is that a male that's in this situation has to be, definitely got to be 33 or over. It has to be a male that's reached his maturity to even get into a situation like that. Because like these younger males trying to do it, you 21 and 22, you don't even understand. You still got milk on your breath. You don't even understand a woman's cycle, let alone you can't even produce. You don't even know how to self-produce. Like, it's a lot of women out there, you don't even know how to self-produce. You got to remember, these women I didn't even cover this part, but these women were called the daughters of Pleiades because they self-produced. They partook in self-fertilization, meaning that they didn't need a man to get pregnant. They were that in tune. They didn't even have cycles. They mastered even having, they didn't bleed, a lot of them, when they were able to have children because they were scientists. See, Thoth, he represents art, science, magic, and judgment. Very important. These are all Libran traits, actually. So Thoth was an artist, very creative. He was a writer, very creative. He was a magician. He was an alchemist, but he was also a judge. He was really good. He had a good sense of judgment. And these younger males, you guys aren't good judges yet because you guys don't know enough about life. You can't be a good judge unless you know a lot about life. You really maybe need to be older than 33 years old. They say, some people say 42. You couldn't get into the priesthood until you were 42 years old, according to the mystery system. The reason why is because you haven't experienced a lot of things yet. When you get 40, you get a certain maturity and a certain experience about yourself. So I'm introducing it because I think that it's good. I'm all about building human culture and building human nature and developing human nature, and I think it's a good practice. I myself, like I said on Facebook, I was talking to a couple the other day, and like I haven't found the Empress for me yet. However, I know that the Empress for me is going to definitely have to be someone that's open to this. So I probably will end up being one of the daughters of Pleiades, because I mean the old school way doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. Look at this world. If it worked, how did this world get into such a shit bag that it is? It's because people think they know some shit, but it's all, you make all your judgments off of being religious. Everything that you do is based on what the religion said, because Adam and Eve did this, and all religions believe that Adam and Eve were the first people on earth. The Muslims believe it, the Christians believe it, even the Jews believe it, that Adam and Eve was the first people on earth and everybody came from them. And you know that story's bullshit, because if it is, that was the case, then how in the hell? So that means everybody partook in incest, and they were just sleeping with their sisters and their brothers and things of that nature. And I'm not even against that, but that's what I'm saying. But you guys are against incest. That's what I'm saying. Like, you guys are against incest and you knock that, but then you say Adam and Eve are the first people. You need to think about the things that you're saying and think about the paradigm that we're up under. And that's all I want to get out on this video, because I know a group of females wanted me to do this video, and I told them, like, when I do it, you know it's going to be controversial, but I got to do it. I'm Ram Hotep. I'm Mr. Controversy anyway, so I hope this helped. I may do a part 2 if it need be, if, you know, I'm reading the comments and see how the comments are as far as, like, did it spark thought? Does more need to be talked about? I can go into different aspects of a concubine, and go into different, like, what is a kingdom? You talk about people talking about their kings, queens, and all of that. Like, what is that? What is a queendom? So I can go a little bit deeper, you know, if need be, but I'll go ahead and stop for now. Thank you guys for listening. I thank you guys for watching. And until we meet again, I'm going to leave you in Namaste.